The login screen hit harder than I expected. Her profile used to sit right there, waiting. Frozen on episode 6 of a show she'd never finish. For 2 years after she died, her parents let me keep using the account. It felt stupid to care so much about a password, but it was the only place where she still existed in real time. Last week, I logged in and found nothing. Locked out. No warning. No goodbye. No goodbye. Just a cold message. We had to stop sharing. They never knew how I'd sit there, scrolling her watch list, whispering, "You'd hate this one." Or how that stupid Netflix profile felt like the last thread holding me together. I almost begged for it back. Almost. But today, I made my own account. New shows, new lists, new me. And for the first time since she left, it feels okay. They never saw me letting go. I never thought a Netflix password could break my heart. Not until last night when I opened the app and saw that login screen staring back at me like a door that had been slammed shut. The little red logo felt different somehow. Hostile. Foreign. For 8 years, that account was more than just a streaming service. It was the thread that connected me to someone I'd never hugged, never sat in the same room with, but who knew me better than most people ever would. We discovered shows together, made jokes about terrible movies, fallen asleep on video calls while some documentary played in the background. The account itself became this weird, sacred thing between us. When I met my friend online in 2013, I was in my early 20s and desperately lonely. I'd moved to a new city for college and hadn't made any real connections. She lived thousands of miles away, but distance didn't matter when you're sitting in your dorm room at 2 a.m. Both of you watching the same episode of some ridiculous reality show, texting each other commentary in real time. We'd synchronized our Netflix viewing like other people synchronized their breathing. The password sharing started almost accidentally. She had an account. I didn't have money for one, and she said just use mine. When I got a job and could afford to pay, we came up with this system where we'd trade off monthly payments based on who was doing better financially at the time. It wasn't even about the money after a while. It was about taking care of each other from across the country. I remember the exact moment I realized our friendship had become something deeper than just gaming buddies who shared streaming services. She was going through a rough patch with her family, and I'd stayed up all night on Discord with her, not saying much, just being there while she worked through her feelings. Around sunrise, she said, "I don't know what I'd do without you," and I felt this weird ache in my chest because I knew exactly what she meant. For years, that Netflix account was like a digital home we shared. Her profile, my profile, and this weird shared space where our viewing histories got tangled up together. I'd see shows in my continue watching that I'd never started, and I'd know she'd been trying new things. Sometimes I'd start watching them just to feel closer to her. I was at work when I got the message from her parents. I didn't even know they had my contact information till that day in late 2021. The message was simple, formal, devastating. "This is regarding our daughter. She passed away unexpectedly last night." I had to read it 3 times before my brain would process what it meant. Passed away. Unexpectedly. The words felt too clinical, too small for what they were telling me. I asked my supervisor if I could leave early, lied, and said it was a family emergency because I didn't know how to explain that someone I'd never met in person but talked to every day for 8 years was gone. I drove home in this weird, numb state. The city looked the same. People were going about their normal Tuesday, but something fundamental had shifted in the universe, and no one else seemed to notice. When I got to my apartment, I opened Netflix without thinking about it and saw her profile still there, frozen in time. Continue watching The Great British Bake Off, Season 4, Episode 6. She'd never get to see how it ended. The grief was unlike anything I'd experienced before. When my grandmother died, there were rituals, ceremonies, a funeral to attend. People brought casseroles and said comforting things about her being in a better place. But how do you mourn someone whose physical absence doesn't change your daily routine? I'd lost my closest friend, but to everyone around me, nothing had changed. I couldn't explain to my coworkers why I was so devastated. She was just someone I knew online, felt like a betrayal of everything our friendship had been. She wasn't just anything. She knew about my anxiety attacks before I even told my family about them. She talked me through my worst depressive episodes. She'd celebrated when I got promoted, commiserated when I got my heart broken. But try explaining that to people who think real relationships only exist in person. A few weeks after she died, her parents reached out again. They'd found our conversations in her Discord, our coordinated Netflix viewing parties. the elaborate Google Doc we'd created to track what shows we wanted to watch together. They could see the friendship their daughter had treasured, even if they didn't fully understand it. "She talked about you," her mother wrote. "She'd mentioned her gaming friend who watched shows with her. She said you were one of the few people who really got her sense of humor." That message broke something open in me that I'd been holding tightly closed. When her parents suggested we continue sharing the Netflix account, I was stunned. I'd been preparing to say goodbye to yet another piece of her, to start fresh with my own subscription. But they wanted to honor what their daughter and I had built together. "She would have wanted us to keep doing what made sense," her father had written. "And she would have wanted you to still feel welcome." For months, this arrangement felt like a lifeline. I'd kept contributing to the account payments. They'd keep up their end when I couldn't manage it, and I got to maintain this small daily connection to someone I'd never see again. Her profile stayed active on the account. I never touched it, never deleted her viewing history, or changed her avatar. It felt like keeping a light on in a window for someone who'd never come home. Sometimes I'd browse her recommendations, the weird algorithm that had learned her tastes over years of viewing. I'd pick random things her profile suggested, thinking maybe if I watched what she might have watched, I could feel her presence somehow. Supernatural thinking, I know, but grief makes you do things that don't make logical sense. The account became this strange memorial. I'd open it and see her name there, see that she was still in the middle of watching 3 different series, and for just a moment, I could pretend she was still somewhere on the other side of the screen, probably rolling her eyes at my terrible taste in romantic comedies. Her parents and I would check in with each other occasionally. Nothing deep, just practical stuff about the account, or they'd share a funny story about something that reminded them of her. I treasured these small interactions. They were my only remaining connection to someone who had shaped so much of my daily experience for 8 years. I thought this arrangement would continue indefinitely. Maybe that was naive. Maybe I was holding on too tightly to something that was always meant to be temporary. But it felt sustainable, and more importantly, it felt like the right way to honor what she and I had shared. Last night I settled in to watch something before bed. It's become a ritual over the years. Netflix and mindless scrolling until I'm tired enough to sleep. But when I opened the app, I was logged out. That had never happened before. I tried our usual password rotation, the variations we'd used over the years. Nothing worked. The screen kept rejecting me, asking for credentials I no longer had. I felt this weird panic rising in my chest, like I was locked out of my own house. I texted her parents. Casual at first, assuming it was just a technical glitch. "Hey, did you change the Netflix password? I got logged out, and our usual ones aren't working." Their response came quickly, and it hit me like cold water. "Yes, we changed it. We're sorry. But due to budget constraints and Netflix's new sharing policies, we can't continue the arrangement. We've removed your payment method from the account." I stared at that message for a long time. Budget constraints. Policy changes. Can't continue the arrangement. Such reasonable, practical words for what felt like the final severing of my last connection to someone I'd lost. The logical part of my brain understood. Netflix had been cracking down on password sharing. Accounts were more expensive now. I knew her family was dealing with their own financial pressures. But the emotional part of my brain was screaming that they were taking away the last piece of her I had left. I'd been paying for May. Today is May 19th. I'd contributed to the account for the last several months, thinking we were all in this together, continuing to honor the system she and I had created. But, apparently, the decision had already been made without consulting. My payment method removed. My access revoked. Done. Wed. I want to be understanding. I want to be mature about this. Her parents are grieving too, dealing with their own struggles, making hard choices about their finances. I know this isn't personal. I know they're not trying to hurt me. But Jesus Christ, it still hurts. This account was more than just a streaming service to me. It was the last place where she still existed, where her digital presence was intact. Her profile, with its carefully curated watch list. Her viewing history that told the story of our friendship in titles and episodes. The suggestion algorithm that had learned her preferences over years of watching. Now I'm cut off from all of it. No warning. No discussion. Wow. No. Just a changed password and a polite explanation about policy changes and budget constraints. I'm angry, and that makes me feel guilty, because these people lost their daughter while I lost a friend, and grief isn't a competition. Their loss is bigger, more fundamental, more publicly recognized. I have no right to be hurt about losing access to a Netflix account when they lost their child. But I am hurt. I'm devastated, actually. This feels like losing her all over again, like the second wave of a grief I thought I'd learn to carry. I keep thinking about all the shows we never got to finish together. The series we had queued up to watch. The running jokes we had about certain actors. The way she texted me spoilers even though we'd agreed not to, then immediately apologized with a string of panicked follow-up messages. And I'm angry at myself for caring so much about something so trivial. It's a streaming service. I can afford my own subscription. I've survived bigger losses than this. So why does this feel so devastating? I keep drafting and deleting messages to her parents. Different ways to ask for the password back, just until the end of the month since I paid for May. Rational arguments about fairness and contribution. Emotional appeals about what this account means to me. But every draft sounds wrong. Too demanding. Too desperate. Too pathetic. Would I be an asshole for asking again? For explaining that this isn't just about the money or the convenience. For telling them that their daughter's Netflix profile is the closest thing I have to a gravestone I can visit. I can't figure out how to have that conversation without sounding insane. Please give me the password back because I like to look at her. Suggested viewing list. When I miss her sounds crazy even to me. But that's exactly what this is about. The practical part of my brain knows I should just let this go. Start my own account. Move on. The shared Netflix was always going to end eventually. Maybe this is just the universe telling me it's time to stop living in the past. Stop trying to maintain connection to someone who's gone. But the part of my brain that still checks Discord, hoping to see her green online status, isn't ready to let go yet. That part of my brain wants to fight for this small thing. This last digital space where we coexisted. I think about sending one more message. Something like, I understand your decision, and I respect it. I was hoping to have access through the end of May since I covered the payment. But more than that, this account has been my way of staying connected to your daughter's memory. Her profile there is precious to me. Could we work something out? But I can't send it. It feels like too much. Like I'm asking them to manage my grief on top of their own. This isn't about the money. $15 or $20 for my own Netflix subscription isn't going to break me. This isn't even really about the shows I was in the middle of watching. I can start them over on a new account. This is about losing the last space where her presence was still active and visible. Where I could see evidence that she had been here, that our friendship had existed, that all those hours we spent virtually together had mattered. Her family has photos of her. Physical objects that belong to her. Rooms in their house where her presence is still felt. They have a grave to visit, belongings to go through, relatives to call on the anniversary of her death. They have the structure society provides for grief. What did I have? Discord chat logs that feel too personal to read. This Netflix account where her avatar still smiled from the profile selection screen. The knowledge that somewhere in their algorithm was a digital ghost of her preferences, still generating recommendations for shows she'd never watch. Now I'm losing that too, and I don't know how to grieve the loss of grief itself. How do you mourn the disappearance of your morning ritual? I keep thinking about her watch list. All those shows she'd added but never got around to. The documentaries she was always meaning to check out. The comedy specials she had bookmarked for when she needed a laugh. That list was like a roadmap of her curiosity, her intentions, her hopes for future evenings, when she'd have time to really dive into something new. I'll never know if she would have liked the shows she'd saved. I'll never get to hear her commentary on the terrible ones. We'll never again text each other at 11 p.m. saying, okay, but what the hell is happening in this show, while watching the same confusing sci-fi series. Maybe this is for the best. Maybe holding on to this account was preventing me from properly processing her death. Maybe I've been using it as a crutch, a way to avoid accepting that she's really gone. For over 2 years, I've been able to pretend in small ways that she was still reachable. Still a text away from responding to my terrible jokes about reality TV diet. Still there on the other side of the screen, just busy with other things. Her profile being active on the account meant she was still, technically, present in my daily life. I could see her name every time I opened Netflix. I could browse her suggestions when I missed her. I could feel connected to someone who no longer existed anywhere else. But connection to what, exactly? To a digital echo. To algorithms that had learned her patterns but couldn't replicate her thoughts. To the ghost of someone who wasn't really there. Maybe her parents did me a favor. Maybe this forced severance is exactly what I need to finally, properly say goodbye. To stop trying to maintain a relationship with someone who can't reciprocate. To stop treating her Netflix profile like a shrine. I've been visiting a grave that wasn't really a grave. Talking to someone who couldn't hear me. Finding comfort in the illusion of presence when what I really needed to learn was how to be okay with absence. That doesn't make the loss hurt any less right now. It doesn't make me feel less angry or abandoned or cut off. But maybe, eventually, it will feel like freedom. I'm not going to ask for the password again. I've written and deleted that message a dozen times, but I'm not going to send it. Not because I don't want to, but because I'm starting to realize that what I really want isn't something they can give me. I want her back. I want to text her right now and complain about this whole situation, because she'd find it both hilarious and infuriating. She'd probably make some joke about being haunted by Netflix algorithms. She'd help me figure out what to say, or talk me out of saying anything at all. But she's not here to help me navigate losing access to the account we shared. The irony isn't lost on me. Tomorrow, I'll probably start my own Netflix subscription. I'll have to rebuild my viewing history, retrain the algorithm to my preferences, start fresh with a blank slate. It will feel weird at first, but maybe that's okay. Maybe I need to stop trying to preserve what was and start building what is. I'll miss seeing her profile there. I'll miss the recommendations that felt like messages from her. I'll miss the illusion that somewhere in that account, she was still discovering new shows, still adding things to her queue, still present in the digital space we shared. But I'm tired of existing in the past tense. Tired of relating to a memory instead of living my own life. Tired of treating every change as another loss instead of a possible beginning. Her parents made a practical decision based on their current needs and constraints. They're not obligated to maintain my grief rituals. They're not responsible for helping me feel connected to their daughter. They have their own ways of remembering her, their own needs to meet. And I have to find mine. It's been 3 days since I got locked out of the account. 3 days of feeling angry, then sad, then angry again, then finally settling into something that feels like acceptance. Not peace exactly, but a recognition that this too is part of the long, weird process of learning to live with loss. I signed up for my own Netflix account this morning. It felt strange typing in my credit card information, choosing my own password, selecting a profile avatar. Everything looked the same, but felt completely different. Clean. Empty. Mine. I spent some time browsing, adding things to my list, watching a few episodes of a show I'd never seen before. Slowly, tentatively, beginning to create new viewing patterns that belong only to me. It doesn't feel like betrayal anymore. It feels like moving forward. I still miss her. I probably always will. But I'm starting to understand that missing someone doesn't mean I have to freeze my entire life in the moment I lost them. It doesn't mean I have to preserve every digital trace, every shared space, every reminder of what was. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes honoring someone's memory means continuing to grow and change and discover new things, even without them there to share the experience. I think she would understand this decision. She was practical like that, even when she was being sentimental. She'd probably tell me to stop being so dramatic about a streaming service and go watch something that would make me laugh. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a new show, something neither of us ever watched together, something that will be entirely mine. And maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll find something so good that I'll wish I could tell her about it. Not because I need to hold on to the past, but because she was someone worth wanting to share good things with. That feeling. Wanting to share something with someone who's gone, that doesn't have to be painful. It can just be love. Persisting in the only way it can when the person you love isn't there to receive it. I deleted the draft messages I had written to her parents. They don't need to manage my feelings about this transition. They're dealing with their own grief, their own challenges, their own need to move forward in whatever way works for them. Instead, I sent them a different message. Short, simple, honest. Thank you for sharing the account with me for as long as you did. It meant more than I can explain. I hope you're both doing okay. They responded with the kind of warmth I'd always appreciated about them. She would have been glad we could maintain that connection for a while. Take care of yourself. And that's it. That's the end of this particular chapter of grief. Not with drama or confrontation, but with gratitude and understanding, and the quiet recognition that some things come to an end, not because anyone wants them to, but because they need to. Tonight, I'm going to start something new on my own account. Something she never saw. Something that will belong entirely to this version of my life. And that feels okay. Actually, for the first time in months, it feels like possibility. The last password is gone, but I'm still here. Still discovering. Still growing. Still capable of finding things that make me laugh, cry, think, feel. She would want that for me. I'm finally ready to want it for myself.